This week, baseball star Kevin Costner falls for journalist Kelly Preston in For Love of the Game.
Martin Lawrence is a mediocre thief who finds he makes a great cop in Blue Streak.
And Kevin Spacey's midlife crisis puts him on a collision course with an American Beauty.
Mom, do we always have to listen to this elevator music?
No, we don't. And as soon as you've prepared a nutritious yet savory meal that I'm about to eat, you can listen to whatever you like.
This is not a happy family. Kevin Spacey, Annette Bening, and Thora Birch star in American Beauty, one of the new movies we'll review this week. And we also go on location to the Telluride Film Festival. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm David Poland from www.roughcut.com.
And I read your column every day, David,
Well,
so
thank you.
Nice to have you on board. Our first movie is American Beauty, one of the saddest and strongest and most penetrating films of the year. The story of people who are buried alive in their own lives and how some of them try to escape. Kevin Spacey stars as a white-collar drudge who tells us in the opening moments that his wife and daughter think he's a loser, and they're right.
They've hired this efficiency expert, this really friendly guy named Brad. How perfect is that? And he's basically there to make it seem like they're justified in firing somebody because they couldn't just come right out and say that, could they? No, that would just be too honest. And so they've asked us. You couldn't possibly care less, could you?
Trying to play the role of loving parents, Spacey and Bening go to see their daughter as a cheerleader.
Hey, I really enjoyed that.
Congratulations, honey. You were great.
Didn't win anything.
Hi, I'm Lester, Janie's dad.
And that is Mina Savari. You might remember her from American Pie as Jane's best friend until Jane's dad sets his sights on her. Wes Bentley plays the odd, distant new boy who's moved in next door.
Do you need a ride? Are you crazy? I don't want to end up hacked to pieces in a dumpster somewhere.
Spacey is afraid of losing his job until one day in a burst of independence, he quits and is intoxicated with his new freedom.
How dare you speak to me that way in front of her? And I marvel that you can be so contemptuous of me on the same day that you lose your job.
I didn't lose it. It's not like, whoops, where'd my job go? I quit.
The Annette Bening character is into self-help tapes and self-affirmation, and Kevin Spacey starts bodybuilding, but there's a desperation beneath everything they do, and this is a movie about loneliness and isolation right up until the sad and poetic ending. American Beauty is a powerful film with one major flaw, the first scene, which robs the rest of the movie of the ability to surprise us. They give away things at the top we don't want to know yet.
I would have made a couple cuts at the top as well, but I thought it was still a remarkable movie.
Yes,
Sam Mendes is his first time directing a feature film. He directed Cabaret on Broadway, and he really creates this small little world that's kind of like one of those snow domes that you shake up and everything keeps on falling, and this family is going through so much in such a small period of time. But everybody is wonderful in this movie. The actors, Chris Cooper is incredible in this picture, and
as the father next door who beats up his son. Yeah,
and Allison Janney, and they're just all these great actors he's chosen. He did a wonderful job of creating something special. It's very precious, this movie.
You're going to see Oscar nominations coming out of this film for sure. I'm sure you are. And you know, some people are probably going to compare it to Happiness, which is also about ordinary people and the secrets in their lives, but this movie is not like that. Happiness is kind of a real dark comedy, and this is more of a sad, lonely film about pitiful people who desperately want to connect in some way to somebody else and they can't. And the Spacey character is so poignant in what he goes through in this film. It's a good movie.
I think they'll compare it to The Ice Storm also, but this movie really has much more of a heart than The Ice Storm ever did, which I think makes it a better movie ultimately. Okay, our next movie is Blue Streak, the latest Martin Lawrence comedy. The film's a blatant ripoff of Eddie Murphy's action comedy mega hits Beverly Hills Cop in 48 Hours, though we do get a lot of Lawrence's unique comic style. Lawrence plays jewel thief Miles Logan, who with the police bearing down on him needs a place to stash the diamond that he and his partners just stole. After 2 years in jail, he finds the construction site he thought would be such a great hiding place is now a local police station, and he's willing to go to any length to get himself in.
Why don't you just leave that pizza here with me? No, I tell you what. Last time I left a pizza here, it magically disappeared. Look, there's two kinds of people that get through that door. People wearing handcuffs, people wearing a badge. You don't have on either, now do you?
Logan buys a fake badge, gets quickly mistaken for a hotshot detective, and is teamed up with the oh-so-familiar, wet-behind-the-ears partner, played this time around by Luke Wilson.
Are you in a hurry, sir? No, just testing your car.
Things get even more complicated when one of Logan's criminal accomplices, played by Dave Chappelle, ends up with Logan the cop in a police interrogation room.
Detectives, I've been assigned Mr. Tully.
Oh, great. That's him.
Oh, my God, what in the world? What's going on?
That was William Forsythe as the Nick Nolte-like older tough guy cop, and Nicole Ari Parker as the public defender. Blue Streak is one of those comedies that does almost nothing for its star other than to wind him up and watch him go. The story's been done, the leaps of logic would intimidate Evel Knievel, and some of the performances do seem phoned in. But Martin Lawrence is the center of this movie, and watching him spin like a hyperactive top is enough, just barely, to get my thumb pointed north.
I thought you were going to say you didn't like it all until you got to the last sentence, but I'll tell you, I like this movie a lot more than you did, and I know that the genre is extremely familiar.
So
and here's
familiar.
a cop who is mistaken, a thief who's mistaken as a cop, and so he has to play both sides of the street, and the more he acts in a bizarre manner, the more his superior admires him, and they're trying to have these debates on whether he's with Internal Affairs or the FBI or the CIA or what.
Just like
But
real life.
I liked it. It reminded me not of the Eddie Murphy pictures, but of the best of the Lethal Weapon pictures, and I thought that the combination of the action, the chases, you know, and usually I hate chases, and Martin Lawrence, I think this is his best performance. So my thumb is higher up than yours.
Yeah, terrific performance. I mean, he's a great actor, and I would
Yes.
love to see him work with some really good directors. Unfortunately,
Okay.
he works with guys who make these small, kind of meaningless comedies, but if you give him a guy like the guy who directed Beverly Hills Cop, Martin Brest, who's a great director, I think he could do great things.
Well, that's probably something he would agree with you about, but still, I think this is a good movie, an entertaining movie. Later in the program, Catherine Deneuve, David Lynch, and Ali Sheedy were at this year's Telluride Film Festival, and so were David and I. Coming up next, Kevin Costner plays an aging baseball hero in For Love of the Game.
I don't need any help.
I can see that. I can see you got your car kicked completely into submission.
Kevin Costner plays a great baseball pitcher who's starting to slow down at the age of 40 in For Love of the Game. And Kelly Preston is Jane, the rider he meets when her car breaks down. They meet in a meet-cute. This is Costner's third baseball picture. In Field of Dreams, he was a farmer who built a baseball diamond in a cornfield. And in Bull Durham, he played an aging catcher who knows the ropes. He's sort of like, in that picture, the character in this one played by John C. Reilly as his best friend on the team.
Chap, don't throw it away too early.
Today I'm throwing hard, Gus.
You and me? One more time?
Why not?
The game is intercut with flashbacks of his romance with Jane, who he loves, but keeps pushing away.
What's the problem, Billy? Talk to me.
You don't want to talk. You just want to give me your version of why she quit.
One nice touch is the way Costner's character keeps up a running commentary on the mound, talking to the batters that he faces.
You're guessing now, aren't you? Well, here's your fastball. Right down the pipe, just so you don't walk away thinking I was afraid to give it to you.
For Love of the Game is soppy and shallow the rest of the way, maybe because its two main characters are so uninteresting. They have the kind of relationship that could be diagnosed by filling out a quiz in a woman's magazine. They'd better keep fighting because that keeps them interested. If they ever get married, they'd bore each other to death.
Yeah, they really needed to build a cornfield in this movie because there was so much corn going on. You know, I liked Field of Dreams a lot, and I loved Message in a Bottle, though a lot of people didn't. I went for the corniness. I like Costner. I like her. But this movie fails on every level. The baseball is bad. The romance is bad. The interconnection between the two is bad. There's really nothing that works at all in this picture.
And it goes back and forth, and the problem is, it doesn't just have one I mean, every time they go back to the relationship, he's sulking in a hotel room, or he wants her to go back to New York, or he doesn't know why she came to Florida, or what is she doing here? Until finally, you want this girl to say, I'm going to get a life, goodbye, you know, and then at the same time, then he's always weeping when she's not around. And eventually, it just gets to the point where you say, get over it.
Yeah, and for me, I actually object to it as a baseball movie because I like baseball a lot, and I enjoyed the 8th inning, which is about the only moment in this entire movie where they allowed you to watch some baseball. Early in the picture, there's a shot where Costner knocks out all the sound around him. Everything, he gets that one bit of focus, and this picture had none of that focus, and that was really the problem with it. It never quite hit it on the mark.
Okay, coming up next, David and I picked the best movies from this year's Telluride Film Festival. On 4 magical days every September, the Telluride Film Festival raises the curtain on the autumn movie season, and David and I are going to share our favorite discoveries with you. Telluride is a little resort town in the Rockies, hard to get to, but worth the trip, where for 26 years, film lovers have gathered each fall, not just to see new films, but to see great old films too, and also to pay honor to the people who make them. Main Street is blocked off, and there are outdoor screenings and indoor ones at the historic Sheridan Opera House, and at the Little Nugget Theater on Main Street. and at the Masons Hall, and at the Big Max Theater, which is assembled inside the high school gym. And if you don't mind taking a ride on a ski gondola, you can go up another 1,000 feet to the newest theater, the Chuck Jones Cinema, named for the man who brought the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote to life. Festival co-founder Tom Luddy was the greeter at the door. On opening night, the festival's other co-founder, Bill Pence, paid tribute to Chuck Jones.
And no one else has been quite so outspoken about the altitude. It's the most fun you'll ever have without breathing.
Every year, the Telluride Medallion is awarded to 3 great film artists. I had the opportunity to honor one of my favorite actresses, Catherine Deneuve, and then to ask her about her career.
You have never been shy about nudity or sexuality in your movies.
Yes, I have.
Well,
The next day, the medallion went to director David Lynch, whose Blue Velvet premiered here in 1986. The third Telluride Medallion went to the composer Philip Glass, who enjoys writing scores for movies and who conducted the Kronos Quartet in a live performance of his new music for the 1931 version of Dracula.
I am Dracula.
The festival is so small, you're always running into the directors and actors like Ali Sheedy, who stars in Adrian Shelley's film, I'll Take You There.
It's not as crazy as Sundance.
Director James Toback turned up with Marla Maples, one of the stars of his new movie, Black and White. This is the third Toback film to star Robert Downey Jr., and Toback defended his controversial friend.
Why, with all the actors and actresses who've taken drugs since 1952 and never served a day in jail, Downey is selected to serve not a day, but over a year in jail is not only unfair, it is deranged.
The guest programmer this year was stage and opera director Peter Sellers. Sometimes Telluride seems more like a family reunion than a film festival. Werner Herzog always celebrates his birthday here.
Happy birthday to you. Now in German.
Telluride only lasts 4 days, but when it's over, you feel refreshed and inspired, and after a long summer of dumb action movies, your faith in the cinema is renewed.
Yes, this was my first Telluride Festival, and I got to tell you, this was one of the great festivals I've ever been to. There's a real sense that people love movies, and a lot of the people aren't in the industry, and a lot of people are just kind of vacationing and coming through, and yet there's this sense that there's something different going on here, and there's just real communication in the streets.
Yeah, it's not like festivals where everybody's buying and selling and making deals, and publicists are trying to set up interviews with the press and so forth. People are there just to see the movies, and you see ordinary people who really know all about these great old films. I went to the Dracula with Philip Glass conducting the live score, and the place was packed with people who, you know, recognized every single line in the movie.
Yeah, every time that movie was played, people were lining up around the block in a 700-person theater.
Yeah.
So they were excited to see it. Plus, there's so many people who have been there for 26 years together, and it's the only time they see each other during the year, and they re-meet in those lines, and they're like, so what year are you? Are you year 1, year 22? And it's this very intense feeling of camaraderie and remembering the great moments of the past of the festival, and it's just a really special time.
It's like a love-in for the movies. David and I both went to as many films as we possibly could at Telluride, and when we come back, we're each going to list our favorite films for you to look for in the next few months.
Rosie, I've got to go see Lyle. And I've got to make this trip on my own. I know you understand.
That was the beautiful, calm, and very passionate The Straight Story, one of the true crowd pleasers at this year's Telluride Film Festival. That's the great Richard Farnsworth trying to explain to his daughter, played by Sissy Spacek, why he needs to go a very, very long way on a small lawn tractor to see his sick brother one last time. Director David Lynch goes all out, even though this is a G-rated film, finding the words and the images to remind us exactly what family is all about.
When my kids were real little, I used to play a game with them. I'd give each one of them a stick, and I'd say, you break that. Of course, they could, real easy. Then I'd say, tie them sticks in a bundle, try to break that. Of course, they couldn't. Then I'd say, that bundle, that's family.
Another one of my big favorites from the festival came from Patrice Leconte, director of the French-language hits The Hairdresser's Husband and Ridicule. He updates the French New Wave brilliantly with his new film, The Girl on the Bridge, the tale of a knife thrower and his beautiful target, both of whom have given up on life. Werner Herzog recalls his gale-force relationship with the late actor Klaus Kinski in his documentary, My Best Fiend. Mifune is the third film to be made by Danish filmmakers who have created a list of anti-Hollywood rules known as Dogma 95. What makes this one so revolutionary is that director Søren Kragh Jacobsen has made a Dogma 95 movie that turns out to be an old-fashioned romantic comedy of hidden agendas and secret lives. And Woody Allen premiered his latest, Sweet and Lowdown in the Mountains of Telluride. The film is a narrative mockumentary about the second best guitarist on the planet around 1930, played by Sean Penn, who is hilarious as a man so desperate to be number one that he'll do almost anything. People have the wrong idea that Telluride is all about art and high-mindedness, but these films and many others show that while the level of craftsmanship is extremely high at the festival, it's still about making very entertaining movies that anyone can enjoy.
That's right. You know, I liked all of the movies you mentioned except Mifune, which I didn't see, but everybody had good buzz. You know, Sean Penn amazes me, and he does again in this movie. Every time he's in a new film, he comes up with a new person. I've never seen this guitarist before. He seems different from all the other Sean Penn characters and kind of lovable in a goofy way.
It's amazing to me that Sean Penn doesn't seem to want to act very much because he is so incredible. He really is one of the best actors we have.
He says he wants to direct, but his gift, I think, is for acting. In addition to the films you talked about, David, there are 5 others I choose for special mention. One of them is Place Vendôme, starring Catherine Deneuve as the alcoholic wife of a famous Paris diamond dealer. When he dies, it's up to her to sober up and try to get back into the diamond dealing business herself with some dangerous people.
Mais la confiance se construit. En plus, je pensais pas vendre le lot.
Je viens d'annoncer au bureau d'Houston, vous me mettez en difficulté.
Vous avez été trop vite.
Rachel Griffiths, who won an Oscar nomination last year for Hillary and Jackie, is one of the best new actresses in the movies, and she's wonderful in a warm-hearted new film named Me, Myself, I. She plays a journalist in her 30s who wonders if she should have married and had kids with the first man she ever loved. And through a magical transformation, suddenly she finds herself married to the guy and the mother of 3.
Hi.
Look at you. I'm wrecked. Stuck in Melbourne for 2 hours. Did you get the roof fixed?
Another one of my festival favorites was East is East, a British film starring Om Puri as a Pakistani immigrant and Linda Bassett as his English wife. It's a cross-cultural comedy, very funny, very touching.
For you, my love.
I also liked another film about cultural differences, James Toback's Black and White, which is in your face with its aggressive cutting style and improvisational feeling. It's about white teenagers who embrace hip-hop culture.
I mean, I like it now, and I'm gonna like stand up for it and be like, yeah, I'm into hip-hop, but you know, when it comes down to it, I'll be over it soon. But for right now, while I'm in school and while I've got comfort and I'm okay and all my friends are into it, I can go and hang out with them and I can go and be a part of that.
And I've saved the best for last. My favorite film of the festival was the wonderful, magical, inspired Princess Mononoke by the great Japanese master of animation, Hayao Miyazaki.
She's all right! Your princess is safe with me!
The drawing in this movie is beautiful. If you watch this show, you know how much I admired Miyazaki's earlier films, My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service, but Princess Mononoke far surpasses them. This is not a children's film. In fact, it's too intense for younger viewers. It's a film using animation to tell a story and create images that only animation could do, and it's going straight on my list of the year's best films.
Yeah, and the screening I was at, a bunch of little kids actually left during the movie, but the adults were absolutely rapt at this movie.
Yeah.
They watched every single second. It was terrific.
Yeah,
terrific
it's a
movie.
great film.
The only movie I really disagree with you about is Black and White, which is Jim Toback's new film, and I just find it just hateful in many ways. I find that he sets things up and then he doesn't pay them off, and it's, to me, another midlife crisis movie from James Toback.
I loved his sense of freedom in this film, the way that he takes several story strands and kind of puts them together without making you march, you know, lockstep through a standard plot. I love the spontaneity and the feeling.
And if he did that, and that was what the thing was, that would be okay with me. But to me, there's so much unreality of dealing with these teenagers and how black culture actually does relate to white culture and how women relate to men. I just couldn't, it was just irritating me over and over and over, like a...
One thing I know from talking to people at the festival is that it's going to divide audiences too, and there's going to be a lot of discussion about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. Two very enthusiastic thumbs up for American Beauty with its strong performances by Kevin Spacey, Annette Bening, Thora Birch, and Wes Bentley. It's an early Oscar contender. 2 thumbs up for Blue Streak. And finally, 2 thumbs down for the baseball romance For Love of the Game, which could have used more baseball and less of the weepy love story between Kevin Costner and Kelly Preston.
Yeah, but the movie here that's really going to be remembered is American Beauty. People will take that with them and keep it in their heart for a long time, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. And thanks for being here, David.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, remember, you can hear our reviews on the web at ebert-movies.com, both David and myself, and he's at roughcut.com. Next week, more new movies, including Jacob the Liar, starring Robin Williams as a World War II resistance hero. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Closed captioning for Roger Ebert in the Movies is brought to you by